K1 they only made 3 of, and the 323s, some people say 6, some people say 9. They are super low numbers. Welcome back to another video. Today we are looking at possibly the rarest Sierras ever built. They are the Sierra Minkers. This day's panned out beautifully. Sun is shining, blue skies, and the cars are being pulled out to be swapped around, to be cleaned. So this is also he's purchased recently, a Z28. But let's get on to the main attraction, the full white Ford Rarest collection, all lined up as I walk down into his man cave. So you'll be able to see where it goes from a workshop to the man cave. So we've got the Escort Mark 1 Mexico. We have the Sierra Minker, the 323. Then it goes on to the Sierra 3-door Cosworth, and then it goes on to the Sapphire. But then obviously then you walk into the workshop, to the man cave, where all the exciting stuff is, and you have the Minker K1, which is the rarest of the full collection. So when I say these are the rarest Sierras ever built, in my opinion, from what research I've done, they had probably, I think they did a 5-litre RS5 5000 or something, but anyway, I don't know much about that one, but these are definitely in the single digits of rareness. You've got the Sierra Minker 323 and the Sierra Minker K1. And the K1, they only made, I think, from research, 3 of, and the 323s, they're saying, some people say 6, some people say 9, but they are super low numbers. So we're going to dive into the 323 first, because the K1 is a little bit more special and there's a little bit more history with that one. So we'll dive into this one. What these were, back in the early 90s, performance shops would be able to purchase a car direct from dealer, unregistered, modify it and release it to the public. So you'd have stuff like, that's the reason why Dimmer UK came about. They would buy in 205s, putting the body kits on them, selling them through Peugeot dealers. So you could go to a Peugeot dealer and you could buy a Dimmer 205. Same with the Clios, that type of thing. Now these were the Turbo Technics conversions. And people know about the Turbo Technics conversions because they did many of them. XR2s, you know, they did the Escorts, but they always used to keep them kind of like, how can I put it? They'd keep them under the brand of the Ford Escort Turbo Technics, but they did these as their own special editions and they called them the Minkers. The early ones were the K1s, these were the later ones. They were all based around the XR 4x4s. Now this one, for the purist, has got the Cosworth bumper on. Gary does have the original bumper to go on it. At any point in time he needs to put it on to put it back to original. He also has the original interior, but this one's had some nice stitching done. I'll show that as I go in. But these were a 2.9 V6 twin turbo. And what made these cars so rare and so kind of controversial was these came out of the era of the Ferrari Testarossa, the Lamborghini Countach, and these factory were faster than both of them cars. So you had what was the pin-up car of the day, the 90s, which was supposed to be the higher performance, and Turbo Technics came out with these, which were absolutely you know, destroy them. That's what made them, you know, a wolf in sheep's clothing and what gave them the reputation they had. But what also was interesting was these were 1.8 seconds faster to 60 than a Cosworth. But then what also made them absolutely crazy, they retailed at around £35,000, which in the early 90s was twice as expensive as the Cosworth itself. Hence the low numbers, hence the rarity. So to put that in perspective, on today's money, that would mean it was £85,000 car. So imagine going to your local Ford dealership, looking at, you know, a new Ford, you know, I don't know what the new Ford salesman car is, but let's say a Ford Mondeo, and having an £85,000 Mondeo on the showroom. As you can imagine, they didn't sell many of them. So the interior, obviously Turbo Technics, and what was really nice about this one was, I don't know if it was this one or the K1, Turbo Technics actually contacted Gary to take both of these cars down to the show because they were so rare and they wanted them on, I think it was the 40th anniversary of Turbo Technics. Super rare, and especially to find two at the same location. Technically, let's say there's only four left, you know, to have the rare of the K1 and the rare of the 323 side by side by the same owner, both being restored or been restored, is mind-blowing. So this is the Minker K1. Now, there's a lot of controversial around this car, and the reason being is they say there was 3 built, but what we're kind of researching and being told, there technically was 3 built, but one of them was kind of the prototype test mule. The other 2 and the 323s were twin turbo, but the red one, which there's a famous clip of Noel Edmonds when he used to present Top Gear, was test driving. That wasn't a twin turbo, it was a single turbo. So is that a genuine Minker? Was it a development car? That's the controversial. There's a red, white and blue. This is the white. Gary knows who owns the blue one. And the red one was always the single turbo, which was featured in Top Gear as, you know, as a demo for pass around to see what it was all about. This one had the one-off body kits, again the one-off little Minker logos, side skirts were all one-off, the rear spoilers were all one-off, all, you know, rare items just for this sole car. And if you look at the interior, I can't really get in to dive in. It looks like factory interior, and I think that's why the 323 hasn't got the original interior, because that's a bit nicer than the factory interior. Cars, as I've said, are in different states of restoration. This one, the 323, is a fully restored now running driving car, which Gary does use from time to time. So these were, from memory, I think they were 2.8 V6 twin turbo. Everything inside was custom, rods, pistons, all that type of thing, and then obviously it was a twin turbo setup, which is what made these things so fast. They were around 320 horsepower. Like I say, 0 to 60 was about 4.8. So these at the time were super fast. And little things that I do like is this thing. Obviously, that's the air intake pipe for the intercooler. It'd have been very simple for Turbo Technics to literally put the pipes under the slam panel or around, you know, this area, but they didn't. They made this full metal piece and welded it into the slam panel, blended it all in so it could feed boost into this direction. That there is so much work, and you've got to think of, these were not mass produced, as I've said. So to do these in such small volume, there's so many man hours just in that area there to make it look right and to make it flow. The little plaque on top, twin, you know, Minker Turbo Technics, and it's nice that Turbo Technics have, you know, kept in touch and are still kind of involved in these cars and keeping in contact with Gary with them. So let's dive into this one, which is a bit more stripped back. This one's obviously, you know, still in the process of being, you know, restored. Obviously the twin turbo setups, don't know what size they are. I think they're like a GT15, something like that. I couldn't even tell you what size they are. They're only a small turbo, but again, 320 horsepower. Back in the early 90s, Lamborghini Countach, this was faster. The Fry Testarossas, this was faster. There wasn't many cars on the road which could keep up with these, and I think the downfall had to be the price. That had to be the biggest downfall, because you still had the Sierra Cosworths and the Sapphire Cosworths at the time, which were half the price. Again, love it or hate it. Some people, you know, didn't like the body kit. Some people did. That's people's taste. So they are very much, you know, love or hate. But either way, you have to appreciate the amount of time and development that Turbo Technics must have put into these to make that power, but then only to make these cars in such small numbers. As like I say, these, you know, under 10 cars produced by Turbo Technics as Minkers. To the back to show you the differences. Obviously they were based on, obviously, as I've said, the XR4x4, the XR4x4. So the 323s were very much like, say, I think they've kind of took people's input that they weren't too over keen on the body styling of the original K1s. Whether that was, you know, people were complaining or they thought that's why sales were bad, don't know. So the 323s, they kept as kind of standard as possible to a fashion. You know, it looked like an XR4x4 outside. As you can see from the back end, there's not much change in difference. But then if you look over to the K1, massive difference. Massive difference. They'd smoothed all the centre panel out. They'd put this wing on. Again, I think it was more because they wanted to rival the 3-door Cosworth wing, which again, if I look behind me, you had the giant whale tail on the 3-door Cosworth, making it, and these flared arches. I think this was Turbo Technics trying to attempt to get that kind of styling on their model. Love it or hate it, you have to appreciate the rarity, how stunning they are, and how fast they are for the time and the period they were built. Because can you imagine pulling up to either of these? Because even so, with this, with the XR 4x4, that's what it kind of looks like. That's what it was based on. But imagine in the 90s having, you know, 320 horsepower and being able to pull up in what someone would think was a standard XR 4x4, but then to be blown away because it was tuned by Turbo Technics and was a Minker. Ultimate sleepers back in the day. It's a shame they didn't produce more, and it's a definite shame that there's not more history on these models. Even asking Turbo Technics how many they produced, what they're saying is where the number 9 comes from on the 323s, they reckon they made 6 cars, 3 engines. But again, some people say there were 9 cars. Can't physically get the correct answer. We do know there was only 3 of these, and again, it's been confirmed that again the red one was only the single turbo because it was the test mule car, and then there was only 2 of these built. And what's also fantastic is for these to be so close to where I grew up as a child, and in this nice man cave, you never know what's around the corner of where you live. able to move some cars around and I've been able to get inside the Minker K1. And obviously I've only seen inside the 323 because the way they were parked I couldn't dive in. But as bad as this sounds, I think everyone will agree, this is awful. Look at the wood trim they put on. Why they put the wood trim on, I'll never know, because it is terrible. Again, everyone to their own, don't know why. Obviously it looks like stock Sierra interior, but with these wood trims up the posts, down, don't get me wrong, it's nice that they came with the car and it's original and they're trying to keep it as original as possible, but you can see why they didn't really take off. Look at even that trim. That you had this car which was twice as expensive as the Cosworth, and it was very much, everything was Marmite. The body kit, you either loved it or hated it. The wood trims, you either loved it or hated it. So I can see why they're in small numbers. But then on the flip side is, it's nice that now we can look back and go, my God, there were some horrible decisions made, but it's nice that this thing is being restored back to factory, even though it would be very simple to change it all to something a bit more tasteful and a bit nicer, but to keep it as original as possible is a really nice touch. To end this video, unfortunately on a bit of a sad note, a couple of months after filming Gary Lloyd's beautiful man cave and car collection, he sadly passed away. It was a bit of a shock to a lot of the local car fanatics. I think everyone knew him in some way or another. I didn't know him for very long, but in that short period of time, left a lasting impression with myself. Because since filming, we kept in touch quite regular. We were backwards and forwards because I'd just got into this Sierra build and he was asking how I'd got on. He was going to help me out with parts. So even for me in that short period of time, he left a lasting impression of a gentleman who was super helpful, was part of the car community, and just wanted everyone to succeed in their goals and their builds. And he was always there to lend a hand if I ever needed it. So my heart goes out to his family to take something away from this on a positive for me. Life is very short and very fragile. People should live for today because tomorrow is never promised. The Minker K1 was never finished and he never got to see it 100% finished, which is so sad. Which is again another reason why I personally have stopped everything, all my little builds around me, to jump onto the Audi build because that's my dream. For anyone who's watching this, please, please, please chase your dreams, chase your goals, because tomorrow is never promised. My heart goes out to Gary Lloyd's family and friends. There's nothing much more I can say. Rest in peace, Gaz.